محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم ولنا أعداءهم أجمعين. السلام على المهدي الذي وعد الله عز وجل به الأمم أن يجمع به الكلم ويلم به الشعب ويملأ به الأرض قسطا وعدلا بعدما ملئت ظلما وجورا. أما بعد، فقد قال الله عز وجل في كتابه الكريم: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، إنما أنت منذر ولكل قوم هاد. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Please recite one salawat. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم ولنا أعداءهم أجمعين. Quran Majid in Surah Ra'd, verse number 7 says that إنما أنت منذر ولكل قوم هاد. O Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you are nothing but a warner, and for every nation there is a guide. And if you look into the tafsir of this ayah from the riwayat of Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam, who are the real mufassiran of Quran and from whom we should be referring to tafsir, we find a lot of traditions which mention that the Imam of the time is the Hadi of the time. As an example, I will quote for you only two traditions which are taken from the book of Basair al-Darjat by Marhum al-Saffar Razwanullah Ta'ala alayh. The first hadith is from Musa bin Bakr and Fadail قال سألت أبا عبد الله عليه السلام عن قول الله تبارك وتعالى إنما أنت منذر ولكل قوم هاد. Fuzail asked Imam Sadiq alayhi salam about this ayat, إنما أنت منذر ولكل قوم هاد. Imam alayhi salam said, كل إمام حاد للقرن الذي هو فيه. It means, the guide refers to the Imam, each and every Imam who has been the guide for the generation in which he resides. And for every generation of people in which an Imam is residing, he is the Hadi for them. In another hadith, it is mentioned from Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salatu wasalam regarding this ayat. He says, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam al-munzir. If you are looking at the warner, it refers to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وَلَكُلِّ زَمَانٍ مِنَّا هَادٍ يَهْدِيهِمْ إِلَى مَا جَاءَ بِهِ نَبِيُّ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَآلِهِ. And when you talk about a guide for every people, it means in every time there will be one guide from us minna. And that guide, what is the responsibility? يَهْدِيهِمْ إِلَى مَا جَاءَ بِهِ نَبِيُّ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. That guide guides the people towards whatever Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has brought. So what we can conclude from these two riwayat and other riwayat is that the earth cannot be devoid of a divine guide at any time. And there has to be an Imam, and that Imam has to be from the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. He cannot be from here and there, from any tribe and qabila. And this is something which we find in traditions a lot. And if you have referred to Usul Kafi, Kitab al-Hujjah, or Muslim Bihar al-Anwar, Kitab al-Imama, you will find traditions on these lines where we say that the earth cannot be without an Imam. لو بقيت الأرض بغير إمام لساخت. If the earth has to be there without an Imam, the earth would just swallow up its inhabitants. It would just sink out. We have even tradition where we say that al-hujjatu qabla al-khalq wa ma'a al-khalq wa ba'da al-khalq. That hujjat khuda, the divine guide, is there before the creation, with the creation, and even after the creation. And hadith even says that if there were only two people to remain on this earth, one of them would be a divine guide, one of them would be hujjah. And if one of them had to die, the other person, that is the person who is not the hujjat khuda, would die first. so that at any point of time, the earth is always having one Hujjat Khuda. And people who need guidance, people who need solutions, people who need deliverance would always find them in the Hujjat Khuda. So with this, we establish that there has to be a divine guide at all times. So now let us see who is the divine guide of this time, who is the Imam of this time. As we are aware that the main criterion for Imamat is Nas. We say that Imam has to be mansoos bin Allah. He has to be appointed by Allah Azza wa Jal. This appointment cannot be done by anybody else. It is not with the people. It is not even with the other guys. It is with Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah appoints. Quran says, وَرَبُّكَ يَخْلُقُ مَا يَشَاءُ وَيَخْتَارُ. Your Lord creates whomsoever He wants. He appoints. It is only that the appointment is communicated by the guides. The appointment is communicated by the Hujjah. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam expressed clearly to everybody who are the divine guides after him, who are the Imams. And you find that not in one, but in many traditions that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has specified that there will be 12 guides after me. 12 Imam, 12 Khalifa, 12 Amir, different words have been used. 12. And in many of the traditions, which is not only in our books, but also in the books of others, we find that there is a clear mention of each of the Imams. In some cases, it is a very ijmali description, like after me will be 12 guys, the first of them will be Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, and the last one will be the Mahdi of this Ummah alayhi salatu wassalam. But in some other traditions, we have found names being mentioned, names. And this is again one mu'jiza, one ilm ghaib of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that he has mentioned the names of the Imams. The 12 Imams who have to come after him, even though in his time there were 3 Imams who were present, like Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam was there, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussain alayhi salam were there. But then he mentioned the 12 Imams. And this is not only with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it was with the other Imams also, where they sequentially mentioned who is the Imam to come after them, and then who is the next Imam and who is the next Imam. And that is why it was very clear even to the enemies that Hazrat Mahdi ajalallahu ta'ala farajuhu sharif will be born from the loins of Hazrat Imam Hassan Askari alayhi salam, because every Imam had clearly mentioned who will be the Imam after him. And if the Ravi was to ask him, okay, who will be the Imam after that Imam and that Imam would continue with the chain. So it is very clear that the Imam of today is none other than the son of Hazrat Imam Hassan Askari alayhi salam, yani Hazrat Imam Mahdi ajallallahu ta'ala farajuhu sharif. And we find many riwayat which are on these lines. And all these prophecies, all these forecasts came out to be true. And whatever the Imams had said, that these will be the Imams after me and after me and after me, exactly the same thing happened. Exactly the same thing. And because they speak from the knowledge which is coming from divine will. Hence, their words, whatever they mention regarding the coming of the prophets, of the coming of the Imams, definitely it came true. Now, if we have to know more about the Imam of our time, we have it from 2 aspects. One is from the aspect of history. That is, okay, Imam Mahdi ajalallahu ta'ala farajuhu sharif. The name is the same name as Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Because riwayat says that in his ghaibat, one should not take his name. So we just mentioned that the name of Imam Mahdi ajallahu ta'ala farajuhu sharif is the same as the name of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. His kunya is Abu al-Qasim, same as that of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In some books, we also find Abu Saleh is one of the kunya for Sahib al-Zaman. Ajalallahu ta'ala farajah sharif. As far as his alqab goes, if you look into the book of Najm al-Saqib by Muhaddis al-Noori Rizwanullah ta'ala alayh, he has brought 182 titles of Imam Mahdi Ajalallahu ta'ala farajah sharif. 182. And each of these titles, they denote a particular characteristic of his personality. Like, for example, one is Mahdi himself, which is the title, al-laqab of Imam Zaman, not his name, which means the guided one, the one who is guided. Yani he is so very guided by Allah Azza wa Jal that he can easily guide the rest of mankind. Similarly, we have Baqiyatullah. Similarly, we have the special name of Sahib al-Zaman, which starts with the letter Qaf in the special title, and then so many other. As I told you, 182. One of them, which I will discuss towards the end of my talk, is the title which is Gharib. Imam Zaman alayhi salam is also known as Gharib, that is the stranger. Not Gharib in the sense of the Urdu meaning, which is poor, but Gharib in the sense of the Arabic meaning, which is a stranger, somebody who is lost, somebody who is a stranger, somebody who is unrecognized, somebody who is majhul al-qadr. Inshallah, we will come to that a little later. Then we know about his birth. Again, that is historical. This probably would be a little more as a refresher for the kids if they are watching this program, that Imam Mahdi alayhi salam was born on the 15th of Shabaan, 255 Hijri, in the city of Samarra. And we know his parents, Hazrat Imam Hassan Askari alayhi salam, Janab Narjisa Khatun salamullah alayha. In the 5 years while he was with his respected father, Imam Mahdi alayhi salam was mostly hidden by his father. And that was also a very big challenge for Imam Hassan Askari alayhi salam. That at one point of time, he had to convey to people that a son has been born to him, so that they know that who is the Imam after him. At the same time, he has to hide his son and the news of his son from the enemies. Otherwise, they would track him and probably try to kill him. So he had to balance the two, and which he did that very, very, very beautifully. That the message was conveyed to the Shias through the trusted agents that a son has been born to Imam Hassan Askari alayhi salam, and he even showed Imam Mahdi alayhi salam to very few loyal companions. And not only he showed them, but some of the questions were answered by Imam Zaman alayhi salam himself at that tender age of 3 or 4 years, which was a proof. Like we know the whole tafsir of Qaf, Ha, Ya, Ain, Sad, which Imam Zaman Islam has explained. And if you see the starting of Mikyal, volume 1, in the initial part, there is a full discussion on a lot of questions which were presented before Imam Hassan Askari alayhi salam, and Imam Zaman alayhi salam answered them. And then Imam alayhi salam said, this is a good enough proof for you to know who is your master after Imam Hassan Askari alayhi salam. So in the first 5 years, he was not very much exposed to the masses by Imam Hassan Askari alayhi salam for the very obvious maslahat of protection. And then when Imam Hassan Askari alayhi salam was shaheed in the year 260 Hijri, Imam Mahdi alayhi salam went into Ghaibat al-Sughra as per the will of Allah Azza wa Jal. And in this Ghaibat al-Sughra, he had 4 Naib Khas, very famous personalities, very trusted Shias. Janab Osman ibn Sa'id al-Amri, Rizwanullah ta'ala alayh, Janab Muhammad ibn Osman ibn Sa'id al-Amri, Rizwanullah ta'ala alayh, Janab Hussein ibn Rawh al-Bakhti, Rizwanullah ta'ala alayh, and Janab Ali ibn Muhammad al-Saymuri, Rizwanullah ta'ala alayh. And they used to act as the medium between the Imam and the people until 329. In some of the books, we find 15 Shabaan 329. In some of the books, we find 10th Shawwal 329. That is the demise of the fourth Naib Khas, where Imam Zaman alayhi salam, 6 days before his demise, he gave him one tawqi and he mentioned that now it will be Ghaibat at-Tamma, which we call as Ghaibat al-Kubra. So Ghaibat at-Tamma would be there, and there is no special deputyship now after the fourth deputy. And then Imam alayhi salam went into Ghaibat, and now he is in Ghaibat. These are all aspects of history which we should know, and it is good. But that is only one dimension, and that is something which is probably even known to his enemies and even those who do not accept him as an Imam. What we should be knowing is a lot more than this. And if you had to know the Imam of your time, on one aspect, yes, historical facts do help. On the other hand, you also have to be very clear about what is the position of Imam. And really, this is very important. If you want to understand who is the person you are believing in, who is your Imam, who is your guide, who is your Qaid, you actually have to know what his position is. If you look into traditions, especially the Kitab al-Hujjah traditions in Usul al-Kafi, you find that the position of Imamat is not something which could be easily comprehended or comprehended at all by the uqul of the people. And martaba Imamat is far, far, far higher than what we can comprehend. What best we can know is what the Aimma Masumin alayhi salam have talked about themselves. Maslan, we see a very good example in Ziyarat Jame Kabira. The ziyarat that has been taught to us by Hazrat Imam Ali al-Naqi alayhi salatu wassalam. It is a very good ziyarat and a very comprehensive ziyarat, and we can learn a lot of things about the position of Imam by referring to some of the jumalat of this trial. For example, if you see, the Imam Ali al-Naqi alayhi salam has mentioned some of the titles of Imam. For example, he says, A'imma, they are the Huda, they are the guidance. Wa masabih ad-duja, and they are the lanterns in the darkness. Wa a'lam at-taqa, and they are the standard bearers and the alam and the signs of taqwa and piety. Wa warasat al-anbiya, they are the inheritors of the Prophet. Hujajillahi ala ahli dunya, they are the hujjat khuda upon ahli dunya. Ad-da'ad ila Allah, they are the callers of the people towards Allah Azza wa Jal. Al-adillah ala marzatillah, they are the ones who will tell you what Allah is razi with and what Allah is not razi. They are Hujjatullah, they are Lisanullah, they are Wajhullah, they are Ainullah, they are Yadullah. And all these things, they are Babullah, they are Asma'ullah. And what not we can find. For example, okay, let me just see if there is anything I can walk around. Suppose this is the book of Biharul Anwar, the volume 108, which contains the index. If you look into Kitab al-Imama of Biharul Anwar, which is starting from volume 23 of Bihar, you find the traditions which talk about the position of Imams. And if I should just read for you some of the pages which I can find here, for example, in volume 23, we find wujub ta'atuhum. Imams are such that their itaat is wajib upon the people. Or for example, وَعَنْدَهُمْ ulul amr, they are the ulul amr, whose itaat is mentioned by Allah Azza wa Jal. Or for example, أَنَّهُمْ أَنْوَارُ, they are the lights of Allah Azza wa Jal. Or if I see volume 24 index, أَنَّهُمْ عَلَيْهِمُ السَّلَامُ al-abrar, they are the righteous people. As-Sabiqun, they are the foremost people. Al-Muqarrabun, they are the closest people to Allah Azza wa Jal. Annahumus Sabil, they are the path. Was-Sirat, and they are the Sirat. Too many things are here which anybody can look at Bihar, volume 23 to 27, Kitab al-Imama, and we will find. This is where we understand. Now, of course, since people who are here, they have some knowledge about the basics of religion. When we say Wajhullah, when we say Ainullah, when we say Lisanullah, when we say Jambullah, when we say Babullah, we are not talking about Allah Azza wa Jal having a form or a shape or hands. These are all meanings to be taken in the Tanzihi form. We don't say Allah has a face. But when we say Aimma Masumin alayhimus salam, they are Wajhullah, it means that a person is recognized by the Wajh, and when somebody wants to approach you, they will come to you through your face. So if somebody wants to come to Allah Azza wa Jal, he has to come through Ahl Bayt alayhi salam. You cannot understand Tawheed unless you study Tawheed from the riwayat of Ahl Bayt alayhi salam. Similarly for Ainullah, they are the eyes of Allah, means they are the ones who look at what the people are doing, and they are the witnesses for Allah Azza wa Jal. Similarly, Yadullah, they are the hands of Allah. It means so many of the works which have to be done back to the creation, Allah carries them out at their hands. One of them, for example, is distribution of rest. Allah gives rest to the ibad at the hands of Imam Masumin alayhi salam. So these are some of the things which we should be able to understand. Even Kitab, for example, Al-Mahasin of Allama Barqi, or Masan Basairud Darajat of Marhum Safar Rizwanullah Ta'ala alayhi, they are very good books to understand the position of Imam. And especially for Imam Zaman alayhi salam, he has a lot of special, you can say, attributes. For example, Shabul Manzar, even though he is Sheikh Hussain, Imam Zaman Salam, if you look at his age, he's almost 1200 years old. But then, if you look at Riwayat, they say that when he will reappear, he will look at a person duna arba'in, and even less than 40. Around 40, that will be how he will look. Or for example, when he will put his hands on the heads of the people, he will make their aql kamil. Or for example, he will be the one who will bring the remaining 25 parts of knowledge so that the entire 27 parts of knowledge are complete. Or that when Imam Zaman Islam will come, he will make Islam to be ghalib over all other adyan. As Quran says, هُوَ الَّذِي أَرْسَلَ رَسُولَهُ بِالْهُدَى وَدِينِ الْحَقِّ لِيُظْهِرَهُ عَلَى الدِّينِ كُلِّهِ وَلَوْ كَرِهَ الْمُشْرِكُونَ. Islam will be ghalib over everything. For Imam, it is very important to understand man mata walam ya'rif imam zamanihi mata mitatan jahiliya. And the first and the primary responsibility is that people should know the imam of their time. If they don't know the imam of their time, they die the death of ignorance. They don't die the death of iman. And something very important I would like to explain. If you look into Riwayat, it says Jahiliya is defined as Zalal, Gumrahi, Kufr, we know, disbelief, and Nifaq, which is hypocrisy. So how does a person die on Gumrahi, on Kufr, on Nifaq, when he does not know the Ma'rifat, or when he does not have the Ma'rifat of the Imam of his time? Hadith says that this is how it is. What our ulama have described and explained this hadith is this. They say a person who does not actually know about the Imam, he doesn't know. Allah has not introduced Imam Zaman alayhi salam to him. He is not aware of the Mahdi. He is not aware. Maybe he doesn't have aql by which he can understand, or maybe this information about Imam Zaman Islam is not known to him. such a person is called as qasir. Yani there is not taqseer, but things have not been completed for him. And he will not be punished for it. And there will be another imtihan. It is coming under the category of mustazaf because hujjat has not been done for him. But anyhow, he is mahroom from Imam. Like he doesn't believe in the Imam because he doesn't know about him. So a lot of the things which a Shia benefits from his belief in Imam Zaman alayhi salam, like for example, calling him out for help, asking for his wasila, asking for his shafa'at, getting things done through him, going to Allah Azza wa Jal through his tawassul, all these things are missing for him. He is deprived of those benefits. Hence, he is called as he is gumrah, zalal. However, if Allah will complete the hujjat, and if people refuse, there are two things. One is kufr. Kufr is when you refuse by the heart and you also refuse by the tongue. You say, I don't believe. That is kufr. And what is nifaq? Nifaq is when you refuse by the heart, but you accept by the tongue. That is hypocrisy. So there are two things. Either hujjat is done or hujjat is not done. If hujjat is done and the person accepts it, he becomes mu'min. If hujjat is not done, then he is mustazaf, zalal. If hujjat is done and the person does not accept, then he is either kafir or he is munafiq, depending on whether he accepts it by mouth or he rejects it by mouth either. Not only that, as a Shia, we should understand that referring to Imam and going towards Imam is very important. Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam says, La yakunul abdu mu'minan. A servant of Allah cannot become a mu'min hatta ya'rif Allah wa rasulahu wal a'immata kullahum, until he believes in Allah Azza wa Jal and his Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and the Imams, all of them, wa Imam Zaman. He especially the Imam of his time. وَيَرَدُّ إِلَيْهِ وَيَرُدَّ إِلَيْهِ, and he turns to Imam for everything. وَيُسَلِّمُ لَهُ, and he submits to the Imam. And this is our responsibility towards Imam. This is what we should be doing. Taslim towards Imam, submission towards Imam, referring to Imam for our actions, for our affairs, for our muamalat, for our problems. But the problem is, as I told you before, among the 182 alqab of Imam Zaman alayhi salam brought by Muhaddis Noori Rizwanullah Ta'ala alayh in Najm al-Saqib, one of them is Al-Gharib. Gharib yani stranger. One of them is Al-Farid. Al-Farid means one who is all by himself. One of them is At-Tarid. Tarid is one who is shunted out, somebody who is repelled. I just want to emphasize on the title of Gharib. Gharib, as I told you, means somebody who is a stranger. And that is why even people who are poor, they are called as Gharib, because when you are not having money and when you are poor, sometimes even your friends or your relatives tend to ignore you. They see you, but they do tajahul, as if they are not knowing who you are. Why? Because they feel you will ask some money, you will come to them asking for some help. So better just pretend as if we don't know them. So in your own land, a person with no money is gharib, according to riwayat. Why? Because people tend to ignore him, people tend not to know him. And one of the meaning of gharib is majhulul qadr. Yani people do not understand his significance. People do not understand his worth. People do not acknowledge his position. We see from Imam Zaman alayhi salam so many things we benefit from him. As I told you, the earth is baqi because of him. بوجوده ثبتت الأرض والسماء وبيمنه رزق البراء. You see Dua Dila, this Jumla is there. Because of Imam Zaman alayhi salam, the Zameen o Asman, there is Sabat. Yani things are okay. They are in order. And because of Imam Zaman alayhi salam, Rozaq al-Bara, other people get rest. In fact, any ni'mat, you name it, any ni'mat, whether it is health, whether it is life, whether it is family, whether it is the faculty of talking, speaking, listening, thinking, walking, anything, the waliyu ni'mah is Imam Zaman alayhi salam. Everything we enjoy on the basis of Imam Zaman. Not only maddi, even ma'navi. وَاجْعَلْ صَلَاتَنَا بِهِ مَقْبُولًا. Dua not ba. Our prayers are accepted because of Imam Zaman salam. وَذُنُوبَنَا بِهِ مَغْفُورًا وَدُعَاءَنَا بِهِ مُسْتَجَابًا. Because of whom? Imam Zaman alayhi salam. Our problems are solved by his prayers, so many things. And then what do? We simply tend to ignore. I will give you some things to think about. Yani, just try to understand how much do we care for the Imam of our time? How much do we involve the Imam of our time in our lives? What role does he play in our lives? And we have an example where we say that, suppose if NASA was to announce today that there is one planet which exists, and that planet is suppose so many thousands of light years away from the Earth, and this is the diameter, and this is the circumference, and this is the path of its orbit, and it takes one circle around the sun in these many light years, all that thing. And somebody will ask you, do you believe in that? What would be our answer? We will say, yes, we believe. And why we will not believe? We will believe because there is a proof for it. They have shown you pictures of it, telescope have taken pictures of it, and so many other evidences are there. But when we do any action, when I want to do any action, do I think about that planet? Whether this action will have any effect on that planet? Whether that planet has said something to me regarding this action? Obviously not. I don't. Khuda na khasta, this is the same approach which we have adopted for Imam Zaman alayhi salam. That is, we are talking about. Wait, we are talking about. Am I audible? Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So it should not happen that when I want to do any action, I simply ignore Imam Zaman stuff, just like the planet. I don't bother whether Imam Zaman has commanded me to do that action or he has not commanded me to do that action. He has told me to keep away from it, and whether that action will have any effect on Imam Zaman. I live my life independent of Imam Zaman. Independent. I accept him to be there and I don't deny him. He is there. He is the Imam. But in my life, Imam Zaman has no role. I work independent of him. When I do an action, I see what is good for me and I do it. I'm not much bothered about how it impacts Imam Zaman. Is that the correct approach? No. Because certainly Imam Zaman is impacted by our actions. He has told us certain things to do. فَالْمَعْرُوفُ مَا أَمَرْتُمْ بِهِ. We recite in Ziyarati al-Yasin. وَالْمُنْكَرُ مَا نَهَيْتُمْ عَنْهُ. There are certain things which we have to do as commanded by Imam Masumin alayhi salam. There are certain things which we have to keep away from as commanded by Imam Masumin alayhi salam. Imam Zaman himself says, فَمَا يَحْبِسُنَا عَنْهُمْ. Nothing keeps us away from our Shias. إِلَّا مَا يَتَّصِلُ بِنَا. Except those news which come to us مما نكرهه, which we dislike, ولا نؤثره منهم, and which we do not expect from them. So our actions play a role whether Imam Zaman comes to us or he becomes away from us. They have a role to play. Imam Zaman has himself ordered, فَلْيَعْمَلْ كُلُّ امْرِئٍ بِكُمْ, every one of you should do those actions بِمَا يُقَرِّبُ بِهِ مِنْ مَحَبَّتِنَا, through which he becomes closer to our love. وَلْيَتَجَنَّبْ مَا يُدْنِيهِ مِنْ كَرَاهِيَتِنَا وَسَخَطِنَا, and he should keep away from those actions which we detest and which is a cause of our anger and hatred. We don't like it. Don't do it. So involve Imam Zaman in your lives. Suppose, I'll tell you, let's try to understand our lives. In today's world, if you ask people, which is the biggest problem, which is the biggest calamity, which is the biggest bala in today's time? Out of 100 people, 90% of the people, especially even I'm talking about the Shias. Our problem is not with others. I'm talking about the Shias. आप अगर शियों से पूछें कि आज के सबसे बड़ा मसला क्या है, सबसे बड़ी मुसीबत कौन सी है, सबसे बड़ी परेशानी क्या चीज है, सबसे बड़ी आफत, सबसे बड़ी बला क्या है, 90 out of 100 Shias will tell you कोरोना. कोरोना सबसे बड़ा मुश्किल, कोरोना सबसे बड़ी परेशानी, कोरोना सबसे बड़ी तकलीफ कोरोना की. Of course, corona is one afat, one mushkil, one ibtila, everything is there. But is it the biggest? The biggest problem of today, the biggest misfortune of today, the biggest calamity that we are encountering today is ghaibat of Imam Zaman. But people are not feeling it. And hence they don't talk about it because they don't feel this is a ghaibat. This ghaibat is a bala. They don't feel this is mahrumiyat. This is where things have to change. People have to think. We have to bring Imam Zaman in our lives. I'll give you one more example. Suppose you see two Shias. One of them is very good in faith. Yani his iman, mashallah, very kamil, mukammal. But in terms of his body, he has diseases, there are problems, some sores, some pus oozing out from his wound, some problems. And there is another Shia who is physically, mashallah, very sound, but he's just a Shia by name. Yani, he's born in a Shia family, hence he's a Shia. Nothing about religion, no faith, nothing, but yes, Shia. Tell me something. If one has to work on someone of the two of them, and one has to pity the two of them and say, oh, he needs help, and he needs help real quick, who is the one who really needs help very quick? Who is in more need of help? Whom you should be helping first? 90 out of 100 will say the Shia who is having a physical problem. His body is having issues and there are wounds and there are other problems with him. Take him to the doctor, heal him first. He is more in inquiry. Whereas the reality is the person who is more in need of help is the one who is not having proper faith. Our problem is we have lost the direction of thinking. The first and the most important thing is faith. If a person does not have faith, then even with a sound body, it will be of not much of a use than a person who has full faith, but he has a body which is having sickness and ailments and so many other things. But then people have to realize this. Or for example, somebody comes and tells us, oh, one more day has passed, Imam Zaman has not reappeared. Of course, we will feel sad that yes, one more day has passed, because every day when we get up, we do dua that inshallah today should be the day of zuhur of Imam Zaman alayhi salam. Every evening when we go to sleep, we again have this sense of sadness that one more day has passed and Imam Zaman salam has not yet come. But we still, with the qada and qadar of Allah Azza wa Jal, we are razi. We don't argue with Allah Azza wa Jal, and we don't show discontent with that. But we feel sad. So this is one sadness. On the other hand, if somebody comes and tells us that, oh, the currency which you are having, for example, that currency has been highly devalued, maybe 20%, 25%. So your effective salary, for example, people who pay money back home, is 25% less. Honestly tell me, which of the two things will give you more tension and you will think more about it, what to do now? Is it the delay in the zuhur, or is it the worldly loss that you are getting by the devaluation of the currency that you are earning? This is what we have to change. I'll give you one last example. You come out of the Imam Bargah or the mosque, and there is somebody who is like crying and he's complaining to Allah Azza wa Jal, oh Allah, somebody has stolen my purse, and my purse had money and so many other important things, and this money is now gone. When people will listen to him, they will really feel sad for him. And they will sympathize with him. That yes, this is a big loss. But if a person comes out of the mosque and he looks at the sky and he says, oh Allah, so much problems in this earth, and still Imam Zaman alayhi salam has not come, how will people react? Many of them will make fun of him. They will say maskhara for him. Some of them will say maybe he's gone mad. See, this is where we need to change. We need to bring Imam Zaman alayhi salam in our lives. Our life should be such that we should be able to bring Imam Zaman salam inside. Our house environment should be such that should Imam Zaman salam knock at the door, I should easily say, come in, Sayyidi. I should not say, wait, let me remove some of the things from my house before I call you in. Even for our kids, when we send them to the school and everything, we are more concerned about their progress in academics. We should also be equally concerned about some of the things that they are involved in. Is it something which Imam Zaman Islam likes, or maybe he does not like? And that is why we try to become more and more close to Imam Zaman Islam. Proximity to Imam Zaman Islam can be attained by taqwa, a person keeping away from sins. That is doing what is wajib, keeping away from haram. That is the minimum he should do. Do the wajib, keep away from haram. And he should go one step ahead. Go for the mustahabbat and keep away from makruhat. And then maybe go one step ahead, go towards wara. Keep away from sins. Whenever you see a sign of sin, whenever you feel there is a chance that you will fall into sin, stop. Al-wuquf in the shubhat. Whenever you are in doubt, don't proceed. Just stop. All these things will make us close to Allah. Feel the absence of Imam Zaman Islam in our lives. Remember, so many problems which we are facing is because Imam Zaman Islam is in ghaibat. And being in lockdown, we have experienced what it is to be alone. Okay, physically we may not be able to meet some of our friends and near and dear ones, but still we are in touch with them through other means of communication. But feel the pain of Imam Zaman. Think about Imam Zaman. Think about his life, how he lives. Think about how he must be missing his Shias. Think about how it must be on him when he hears that the Shias are being martyred, the Shias are being tortured, the Shias are being exiled, the Shias are being taken into prison, and so many other musibat coming upon the Shias. And then try your best. Whenever you send salawat, say wa'ajjil farajahum. Pray for zuhur of Imam Zaman. Aksiru du'a bita'ajjil al-faraj. And try and make a determination that 15 Shabaan, inshallah, I will try my best not to hurt Imam al-Zaman alayhi salam intentionally. And if I realize that I'm doing something wrong, and if Allah gives me this tawfiq of understanding that this is something which will definitely hurt my Imam, then let me keep away from it. Inshallah, with these things, we will try to become more and more closer to Imam al-Zaman alayhi salam. I hope these tadakkurat, which was first for myself, will definitely strike a chord with some of us, and certain things, inshallah, we will definitely change in our lives. With this small message, I would take your leave, and I would only end with praying for the تعجيل of zuhur of Sahib al-Zaman. Allahumma ajil waliyika al-faraj wa jalla min ansarihi wa a'wane wa akhiru da'awana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Please recite one salawat with ajil farajahum. Allahumma salli ala محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. التماس